They are after your life. The wedding had been the talk of Lagos for months, and now that the day had finally come, Victoria Island was glowing with opulence. The venue, a luxury event center, decorated with crystal chandeliers, cascading floral designs and golden drapes, looked like something lifted straight out of a royal fairy tale. Security was tight, the guest list exclusive, and every corner of the hall brimmed with dignitaries, celebrities, and politicians. Journalists waited outside, snapping pictures of luxury cars as they pulled in, while bloggers live-streamed snippets for eager fans following online. Everyone wanted to witness the union of two powerful families, a merger of money, influence, and beauty. The groom, tall and immaculately dressed in a designer tuxedo, was the son of a billionaire oil magnate. The bride, radiant in her white gown with crystals embroidered into the lace, was the daughter of a well-known politician. Together, they looked like a match made in heaven, and every guest whispered about how flawless the union seemed. As the music played, the bridesmaids filed in, followed by the groomsmen, each step rehearsed to perfection. Then came the little flower girl, a bubbly 7-year-old cousin of the bride. She wore a cream-colored dress with a tiara on her curly hair, carrying a small basket filled with rose petals. She smiled shyly as she walked down the aisle, sprinkling petals along the carpet that led to the altar. Everyone cooed at how adorable she looked, and the photographers captured her from every angle. To most people, she was simply a child performing her role beautifully, but inside her small chest, her heart was pounding hard. She held tightly to a secret she had been told not to mention, a secret she had overheard when adults thought she wasn't listening. She tried to focus on the petals, dropping them carefully on the aisle, but her young mind kept drifting back to the voices she had heard 2 nights before, when she was supposed to be asleep in her aunt's room. The groom's name had been mentioned, so had the bride's cousin's name. The conversation had been hushed, filled with laughter, whispers, and promises that confused the little girl at first. She didn't understand why the man about to marry her beautiful cousin would be saying such words to another woman in the family. At 7 years old, she wasn't supposed to understand the complexities of adult relationships, but the tone, the sneaking around, and the giggles she had heard were enough to tell her it was something wrong. Now, as she reached the altar and took her place, she looked at the groom standing tall and smiling confidently at the bride. Her cousin looked radiant, glowing in happiness, believing her life was about to begin with the man she adored. The little flower girl's stomach twisted in knots. She had wanted to tell her mother what she heard, but she was too scared, afraid of being scolded for eavesdropping. Yet, as the ceremony continued, she began to realize she couldn't just keep quiet. She didn't even fully understand why, but something in her small conscience told her that truth, no matter how uncomfortable, had to come out. The hall buzzed with excitement as the officiating pastor began his opening remarks. The guests leaned forward, eager to witness the vows. The bride's father sat proudly in the front row, nodding in satisfaction. The groom's mother glanced around with pride, already envisioning the generations this union would produce. Everyone thought it was perfect, but the flower girl couldn't ignore the weight pressing on her chest. She fidgeted with her basket, her lips trembling, unsure of how to speak. She glanced at her mother, then at the bride, then at the groom. Her small voice was caught between fear and courage. As the choir sang softly in the background, she whispered under her breath, almost as if trying to rehearse the words she would soon say. No one paid attention to her, believing she was just being playful like any child would. But inside, she was building up to something that would shatter the hall in ways no one imagined. For now, she held on, letting the ceremony move forward, watching his smile spread across faces, as if nothing could possibly go wrong. The bride's veil shimmered under the chandeliers. The groom's friends patted his back proudly. Phones were raised, cameras flashed, and everyone basked in the glamour of a Lagos wedding that was destined to trend for weeks. Yet among all the shine and luxury, one tiny flower girl held the one truth that could make the entire picture crumble. She shifted uncomfortably, her fingers tightening on her basket of petals, her young eyes darting nervously between the couple at the altar. The secret was burning on her tongue, and though she didn't know exactly how to say it, She knew one thing for certain: she could not leave that hall without letting it out. The perfect wedding was not as perfect as it seemed, and in just a moment, everything was about to change. The pastor's voice echoed through the microphone, steady and reassuring as he reached the familiar line every wedding guest anticipated. If there is anyone here who has a reason why this union should not be joined together, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. The crowd chuckled lightly, as they often did, because everyone assumed no one would dare interrupt such a high-profile wedding. Cameras zoomed in on the smiling faces of the bride and groom, capturing the moment for live streams already trending online. But then, an unexpected sound broke the silence. A small hand rose in the air from the front row, and the flower girl, the tiny 7-year-old in her cream-colored dress, stood on her toes and said clearly, "I know something." The hall froze instantly. Conversations halted, music faded in the background, and all eyes turned toward the child. At first, some guests laughed nervously, assuming she was just being playful, but the serious expression on her small face silenced even the whispers. She clutched her basket of petals tightly, her voice shaking but still carrying through the microphone when the pastor, confused but curious, bent down slightly and asked, "What is it, my dear?" The little girl glanced around, then pointed at the groom with her tiny finger. "He's not supposed to marry my cousin," she said, "because he is with another cousin." The words hit like a thunderclap. Gasps tore through the hall, and a wave of murmurs rippled from the front row to the back. The bride blinked rapidly, her smile fading, her hands trembling against her bouquet. The groom froze, his confident grin slipping into a stunned half-smile, as though he wasn't sure if this was a prank. Guests began to rise from their seats, straining to hear clearly. Some clutched their phones tighter, recording every second of what was unfolding. The little girl, oblivious to the storm she had unleashed, repeated herself with even more innocence. "I heard him talking. I heard him with Cousin Amara. He said she was the one he really loved. They were laughing when they thought I was sleeping." The hall exploded. Screams, shouts, and camera flashes erupted all at once. The bride's mother shot up from her seat, her hand pressed against her chest. The groom's father barked at security to escort the child out, but the bride grabbed the pastor's arm, insisting that the girl should be allowed to speak. "Tell me exactly what you heard," the bride demanded, her voice breaking. Tears brimmed in her eyes, mascara already streaking down her cheeks as she looked from her innocent cousin to the man standing beside her. The groom, his face red with panic, tried to intervene. "This is ridiculous," he said, forcing a laugh. "She's just a child. She doesn't know what she's talking about." But the crowd wasn't convinced. The weight of the little girl's words hung in the air, too specific, too bold to be dismissed as childish imagination. Phones began buzzing as live feeds spread across Instagram and TikTok. Hashtags formed instantly. Wedding scandal, flower girl exposes truth, a Lagos drama. The entire country was watching before the couple even knew it. All attention shifted to Amara, the cousin sitting 3 rows behind the bride. Her face turned pale, her hands trembling as whispers spread in her direction. The bride followed the whispers and locked eyes with her cousin, who looked away quickly, her silence louder than any confession. That silence was enough. The bride dropped her bouquet, the roses scattering across the marble floor. Gasps filled the air again as she turned to her groom, her voice sharp and trembling with pain. "Is it true?" the groom stammered, sweat glistening on his forehead. "Listen, it's not what it sounds like. She's a child. She misunderstood." His words trailed off as the bride's father stood furiously, pointing at him with a shaking hand. "You dare bring shame to my family like this?" he shouted, his voice trembling with rage. The bride's mother fainted, falling into the arms of relatives beside her, and guests rushed to her aid while others continued filming. The hall was complete chaos, shouting, crying, arguing, and security trying unsuccessfully to control the storm. Meanwhile, the flower girl stood still, clutching her basket, tears welling up in her eyes as she realized the weight of what she had caused. She didn't mean to destroy the wedding. In her young heart, she only wanted her cousin to know the truth before it was too late. But now, she watched the bride collapse into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably, while the groom pleaded in vain, his carefully crafted image crumbling before the nation. What was meant to be a perfect, glamorous union had been reduced to scandal within minutes. And it was all because of a small voice that spoke when no one else dared. The bride's legs felt heavy, as though the ground beneath her had shifted. Her veil trembled as her hands shook uncontrollably, her eyes darting from the groom's face to her cousin's. She wanted to believe it was all a bad dream, a cruel misunderstanding. But the silence that filled the hall after the little flower girl's words was louder than anything she had ever heard in her life. The groom's denial sounded hollow, his voice breaking with desperation as he tried to salvage his image. The cousin Amara could not even look up. Her guilty silence was like a blade, slicing through whatever thread of trust the bride had been holding on to. The bride staggered back a step, her bouquet lying abandoned on the marble floor, petals scattered like broken promises. The mother of the bride was carried out, still unconscious, while relatives fanned her and begged for water. The bride's father shouted in anger, his voice filling the hall as he demanded answers from the groom and his family. The groom's father barked back, insisting that the child had exaggerated and that the cousin was being unfairly cornered. But it was too late. The hall had turned into a battleground. Guests pulled out their phones, recording every heated exchange. The story had already escaped the four walls of the hall. It was on WhatsApp statuses, trending on X, and flooding Instagram lives. Millions who were not even invited were now spectators to the biggest scandal Lagos had seen that year. In the middle of it all, the bride sank into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably as her friends tried to console her. She replayed every moment in her mind, every romantic gesture, every promise whispered by the groom, and suddenly they all felt fake, rehearsed, and calculated. How could she have been so blind? How could the man she loved stand beside her, smiling with such confidence, when his heart had been given to another, and not just anyone, but her own blood? The betrayal cut deeper than words could describe. Her tears smudged her makeup, but she didn't care. She wanted the world to see the raw pain that came from trusting the wrong person. The groom tried to reach for her, his voice breaking. "Please, listen to me. It's not like that, you don't understand." But before he could continue, the bride slapped his hand away, her voice trembling but firm. "Don't touch me." The hall erupted again, half the guests shouting in support of the bride, others trying to quiet the chaos. Security struggled to contain the situation as relatives of both families hurled accusations back and forth. Amara, the cousin, was finally surrounded by older relatives who demanded she speak. She trembled, tears rolling down her cheeks as she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen." That single line was all the confirmation needed. The hall fell into another uproar, some people gasping in pity, others shaking their heads in disgust. The bride's father called off the wedding immediately, his voice thunderous as he declared, "This union ends here." The officiating pastor stepped back, speechless, clutching his Bible with uncertainty, unsure if he should leave or attempt to calm the storm. Outside the venue, the media frenzy had already begun. Paparazzi and online bloggers swarmed, trying to get footage of crying guests, fainting relatives, and the groom being escorted by his security team. Headlines flashed instantly. Flower girl exposes groom at billionaire wedding. Love triangle shuts down Lagos wedding. And bride left heartbroken as cousin confesses affair. Within hours, clips of the scene circulated everywhere, each angle painting the scandal more vividly. Social media users dissected every detail, some applauding the child's bravery, others debating the moral decay in elite society. The story wasn't just trending, it had consumed the nation. By evening, the once celebrated wedding that was meant to be remembered for glamour and luxury became infamous for betrayal and humiliation. Two powerful families that had planned to merge their influence were suddenly at war, accusing each other of deceit and lack of respect. The groom's business reputation took a hit, with sponsors and partners distancing themselves from the shame. The bride, though devastated, began to receive an outpouring of love from strangers across Nigeria, who flooded her social media with messages of encouragement and solidarity. People called her brave for walking away instead of pretending nothing had happened. In all of this, the little flower girl was taken home quietly by her mother, shielded from the chaos she had unknowingly unleashed. She didn't understand the full magnitude of what she had done, but she sensed it was serious. Her mother scolded her gently, yet in her heart, she knew her daughter had spoken the truth many adults would have chosen to bury. In a city where lies often thrived behind glamorous walls, the innocent voice of a child had cut through with honesty. She had not just changed the course of a wedding, she had exposed the fragility of secrets that powerful families thought could remain hidden. By the next morning, the bride's face graced every major blog, the groom's reputation was in tatters, and Amara had vanished from social media entirely. The perfect fairy tale had crumbled, but what lingered most in people's minds was the image of a little girl, clutching a basket of petals, raising her hand at the altar, and speaking words that would ripple far beyond the glittering hall in Victoria Island. She became an unintentional hero, the unforgettable voice of truth that reminded everyone no matter how powerful, no matter how wealthy, secrets have a way of coming to light, sometimes through the smallest, most innocent voices of all.
Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe for more teachable and inspiring folk tales by FE.